Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 161, Alphaville, the classic 1965 French film. With us tonight to discuss this film from 1965 and this, I would say, film noir sci-fi adventure is my good friend, my host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Hi, Roy. Co-host. Yes,
co-host. You. Yeah, yes. Well, no, Ross, you're going to be hosting tonight. And also joining us is our special guest co-host, the one and only Mr. Christian Lalancet. Christian, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being a part of it. And I should say you're a Canadian. Welcome, and thanks for joining us from Canada.
French Canadian.
French Canadian. I stand correct. Yep.
we had to have you on. You're the token French speaker here for Alphaville. French language.
Yeah, I thought so.
But also, you're such a prolific, film watcher. You're a cineast, and you've seen just about every film, I think, from your comments. So I think it'd be handy to have you on for your perspective. Yeah. So, how did you and Roy meet? I'm curious.
What?
Have you ever met in person? Have you and Roy ever met in person?
No.
How did you get to know each other?
Because of Roy, because of Space 1999.
Okay. So it was an online friendship.
Yeah. See, Ross, all roads lead to Space 1999.
Yeah. Well, you're out there every week, and you make some of the most intelligent comments and draw like these great connections. So I thought you would be perfect for this, discussion of Alphaville. I hope I'm not making your head too big.
Yeah. No, just eat.
Oh, okay. It's very hot there.
No. But now, yeah. Yes.
No, yes.
Just
like in the film. When she says no, she means yes. And when she says yes, she means no.
Outside it's cold, but inside it's hot.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go on, I want to welcome our viewers that are joining us. I want to say hi to Bill. Bill is joining us via YouTube, and he's saying, "Hey guys, looking good from the tube." Thanks for joining us, Bill. We appreciate you being out there. I also see Jeff Rubel is joining us from out west. Welcome, Jeff. And I also see Captain Phil is in the house. Captain Phil is joining us. He said, I actually watched the movie this time. That's a good thing, Phil. Liz is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Liz. And I also see Matt Anthony is in the house. Look out. Matt is saying, Scasse Bleu. I had to watch the whole thing in French. Yeah. Yeah, of course, Ross. I actually see there's a Facebook user out there. I don't have your name coming up, but this Facebook user is saying good evening. So if you can just identify yourself and just say who you are, I apologize because I would like to welcome you to the show, and I thank you for being out there. Pete Fultz is also joining us. Welcome, Pete. I see Deborah is also joining us. Welcome, Deborah. And she's saying she's joining us from the Big Berg, which would be P-Berg. And Liz is commenting, Christian is an amazing source of knowledge about films and TV. And also the Facebook user is saying online friendships are becoming a lot more common, but that's a good thing. Definitely agreed on that. Phil is saying Christian introduced me to I'm going to botch this. Harmonium. Thanks, Christian. So just wanted to relay that. And you know what? I'm forgetting. I can do this. I can put the name. I can put the post out there so you guys can see it. So welcome. I'm seeing Martin is also joining us. Welcome, Martin, joining us from New York. Lou is out there also joining us from Rhode Island. Welcome, Lou. And also Colleen is joining us. Colleen is joining us from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Colleen. And also, it's Randy Lee. Randy, welcome. Randy, for some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't come up that I can see who you are. But anyway, welcome to the show. Good to see you out there. And let me see. Phil's saying, wow, I look just like Martin Landau in the comments. Welcome to the 21st century, Phil. So anyway, let's get call me anonymous. Okay, Randy, I'll call you anonymous. That's all good. But anyway, with all that said, yeah, we're going to be talking about Alphaville, and I must say I had never heard of this film. Ross actually introduced me to this movie, and it was because of the late director, the director who just recently passed away, who is Jean-Luc. I like to say that way, Jean-Luc. You know, it makes me feel like Star Trek Next Generation. Jean-Luc, am I saying that right? Jean-Luc Godard, and
yeah,
very responsible for a lot of the French New Wave movies. And I have to say, I have an appreciation being introduced to that, not knowing really a lot about it. So, Ross, I want to thank you for suggesting this film, and also indoctrinating me and helping me expand my horizons at 56 years of age. And Christian, I want to thank you for joining us, because as Ross said, you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to films and different parts of literature, as well as music. So we welcome that. And let's get started to talk about this movie.
Now, Christian, have you seen any of Godard's other films?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He made about 100 films.
Right. That's good that you've got that background. Yeah.
I only recommend the one from 1960, Breathless, through Alphaville. But for me, Alphaville is the top and by far. But Breathless is very good because of all the influential and because the story is very simple. It's just a common. You have a fugitive. You have a fugitive who try to stay free. He's on the run, and that's the story. But it's the way it was made. The jump cuts, the out of frames and out of focus, and I remember William Friedkin, and he said there was 3 moments for him in movie story. It was E.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation, Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, and Jean-Luc Godard, Breathless.
Yeah, that's the film that made what's his name, Jean-Paul Belmondo.
Yes,
an international star.
Yeah.
He idolizes, his character idolizes Bogart, and he kills a police officer at the beginning of the movie, and he's on the lam for a lot of the film, for the rest of the film. So it has a little bit of a film noir influence also.
But before that, I know you saw a lot of French film too, but before Breathless, the French always liked the film noir in general, and the Americans especially. They really have a cult for all the old Hollywood classic stuff. And they adapted a lot of American novels, and were only made once on French films since and before.
Yeah. You had Rafifi, the heist movie, and you had some of the Clouseau things are kind of quasi noir. In fact, though, Rafifi, I think, was directed by an American, an expatriate. I'm sorry,
Jean-Pierre Melville. You know Jean-Pierre Melville?
Yes. Yeah.
That's another one with the. I tried to find a cowboy hat, but I think it's on.
Okay.
You always wear the cowboy hat.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Very good. Well, so Alphaville. This is what a kind of a mashup between you got your sci-fi, you got your film noir, and you've got everything else. You've got your new wave, your French new wave.
I want to jump in regards to that, because the way this movie starts out, I mean, he's driving his car, and it's a Ford
Galaxy.
Yeah. So it's kind of almost like, they're making the references just in terms of that, even with, the names of the characters and everything, which we'll go through. But it's interesting because it's almost like he's going from Earth to this different sector, but you never see him in a ship. There's nothing in this film is science fiction based, but it's through the plot, it's through the characters, it's through discussion, it's through the language, but it's not done through anything that's with elaborate effects or anything along those lines. This movie was entirely filmed in Paris, and it's almost like you're utilizing your imagination to imagine that they're in these different types of scenarios. And I think really, when you think about it, the fact that they took that type of leap of faith, so to speak, or that using fantasy and leaving things up to the imagination was pretty neat, because I'm not aware of anything like that being done at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This website has more special effects than Alphaville did. But the whole new wave movement, and correct me if I'm wrong or jump in, Christian, when you feel like it, but it totally subverts everything you expect with in filmmaking, as far as
exactly
the carefully set up shots. If it were an American film noir, there would have been mood lighting, there would have been crazy camera angles. They would have really had all the things you would expect, as opposed to where in this film, it seemed like they'd walk into a room with natural lighting. It seemed like it was just like a room, and they'd have a scientist standing behind a desk, some guy in a lab coat, and they do the scene like that. And it turned out they're improvising a lot of the lines. It's just kind of
poetry too.
What's that?
There's poetry in it too. They use poems.
Yeah, poems. Right. But a lot of handheld camera. The editing is choppy. Like all these jump cuts. Sometimes like in the point where Eddie Constantine, what's his name, Lemmy Caution, walks into the room. Yeah, he walks in 3 different rooms, and Anna Karina is behind 3 different doors as he walks in. It doesn't make any logical sense, But,
but it's all the point of the film, the logical live and the illogical die.
Exactly.
It's,
right.
It's going against the grain. It's just doing everything that's like atypical. And to what you said earlier too, Ross, when you were using that as an example, when Christian was saying, actually nodding his head yes, but saying no. I mean, that's something that was also done within the film as well too.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different style of filmmaking, but it's very interesting though.
Yeah. How about having Akim Tamiroff in that film?
Yes, yeah, Akim Tamiroff, which
Touch of Evil.
yeah, he was in Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, so he's kind of he was in all kinds of movies, but he was in a couple of
about the same part too.
I'm sorry?
He played about the same part.
About the same part, yeah, as he does in Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. I'm sure he got cast for that.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's also the actor, by the way, that supposedly inspired Boris Badenov, in the Bullwinkle. The guy that we're talking about, he was like the alcoholic detective that had been there before.
He's the one that dies.
Lemmy Caution. Yeah. He's in a lot of American movies. Actually, Armenian birth. He was born in the Soviet Union to an Armenian family, and came to the United States and stayed here and made a lot of Hollywood movies. But he was in a film with Gary Cooper. I don't know if you probably have seen it, Christian. General Died at Dawn.
Yeah.
He plays General Yang, and I think that film must have been the basis, one of the inspirations for the Indiana Jones movies, because he plays such a kind of an Indiana Jones villain, and Gary Cooper is Harrison Ford in that film. Yeah.
Colin is saying, just interjecting, he's saying Jean-Luc Godard. Am I pronouncing his name incorrectly? Godard reminds me of Robert Picardo a bit. And then also Phil just commented, the Alpha 60 interrogation scene cemented into a science fiction. A lot of it reminds me of the short film Le Jet, the basis for
Le Jeté, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting because when I was watching it, I started thinking of Blade Runner. Yeah, I don't know if you remember the Voight-Kampff test that they would do on the replicants.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he
I like
says
the microphone. The microphone.
the microphone, right, and he was having a hard time reading him. When he was talking about the poetry and everything. The computer was saying this. So
I like the voice of the computer.
yes, which was somebody had their larynx removed, and so they had to do that, synthetically. Yeah,
They didn't know. They didn't. From what I researched, they didn't know who that was, though.
I thought it was Howard Vernon at first, but he don't talk like that. I thought maybe they put a voice box something on his.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
On a larynx, but it had all these film noir tropes. You had the 45s. You had the switchblades. You had people swilling whiskey out of teacups. You had plenty of hats and trench coats and all the stuff you get in film noir. But it wasn't filmed like a film noir. You had the labyrinthine corridors that went on forever, but you didn't have the mood of a film noir so much. And it's funny because film is by nature, it's it's temporal. It takes place in time, and it's a narrative. You usually go for a story, and it's kind of like he takes all of these elements of film noir and drops it into like a blender. He makes kind of like a collage out of it, because you get scenes where like Lemmy's in the phone booth, and the guy pulls the switchblade. All you see is the switchblade. And then all of a sudden, like, he's falling dead out of the phone booth. We don't know how he got in there.
Right.
It's
very choppy.
Also, the beating.
Yeah.
Also, when Caution got beaten in this, how do you call that? You go to I forgot the name of that. He said l'ascenseur, staircase.
Staircase, yeah.
Staircase.
The escalier.
There, but you only see him do that.
Right.
You see his, you don't see the hit.
Right.
Right.
He's just going. He's going back and forth like a pendulum, and you don't see them delivering the punches, and then the next thing you know, the elevator door is open, and then he's being dragged out. Yeah.
It reminded me of something from Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. It seemed like you could see Steve Martin in that.
Everything's in that one, but also I forgot to tell you said that the whole film was shot in Paris. It's true, and also it was all on location. There was no studio shot, I think. So and also to have a futuristic view, they had all the latest architecture placed in so the scout location did all the place and with the angle they play all the most futuristic in the 60s at the time for Paris. So that's why. Also, I like the fact also that Caution came from Nueva York.
Oh, right. Yeah, which was New York, right? Nueva, New York. Yeah. Yeah, right. And then every time they would go north, you saw the north, and everything went south. It was Sud, and it would snow in the north and rain in the south. Yeah. So so you have all these film noir characteristics, but there's none of that mood or the excitement, or the involvement that you would get, like the car chase. Ordinarily, if you had seen that, in a classic noir, the editing or you'd be more involved in it, but it was just kind of very dispassionately done.
All on purpose. All on purpose.
Yeah. It totally subverts your expectations the whole time. So, but yeah, so that they got that, and then it's put in this Orwellian, setting, like this dystopian future, where, as Roy said, or it's come up several times in the conversation already about nodding the head when she's saying no and shaking her head no when she means yes, where words take on the opposite meaning, as they do in Orwell with the newspeak, where it's like war is peace, freedom is speech, or freedom is slavery, rather. Ignorance is strength. That's all through 1984.
I read the book too. Yeah, I read the book too.
Yeah, and all the words.
I read 1984. Around 1984, and also at the same time I read the Blade Runner's novel.
Do
Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
I read about the same, and also Brave New World from
right, Aldous Huxley. Yeah.
So it's
right.
One thing for sure, Ridley Scott saw Alphaville at one point.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think that Blade Runner picks up
same ending.
The ending is the same, exactly. And then it got me thinking. Are these pleasure units, or what do they call them, Roy? The seductress third class.
The seductress. Yeah.
And they all have the serial numbers tattooed.
Yep.
And she, the lead, Anna Karina, who's in a lot of Godard's films, she has the serial number tattooed. And it got me thinking, well, it's like, we think they're conditioned, but are they conditioned, or are they, creation? Are they androids? It got me wondering about, if they were maybe thinking that when they were, obviously Blade Runner was based on the book, but I wonder if that in part influenced the way the movie was made also. And they do leave Alphaville at the end, as they do in Blade Runner, where
she tells her not to look back. She tries and tries, and then he's just like, look forward, and then he's trying to get her to take that next step, which would be love, and she's asking for his help. And then he's like, it's almost like he says to her, you have to do it on your own. And if you can't figure it out, you're almost as dead as the people that we left behind, which was kind of a statement in itself.
Now, Chris, when you go ahead.
It's exactly the same, because there's positive and there's despair both at the end, because it's an open ending and you don't know what will happen. There's more words in Blade Runner, because Decker had to explain with the
voiceover. Yeah.
Voiceover, yeah. So it's of course Blade Runner is more modern, but and also the color and it's neo-noir.
Yeah, and they did use voiceovers in this film too.
Yeah, I mean, it has the narrative, and from my understanding too, with the French New Wave movies, that's almost like part of it. Am I right in saying that it's almost like a documentary type of style that is utilized a lot of times? Is that type of style true for a lot of the other movies that were made like that?
Well, at first, when Godard and Truffaut arrived at Les Cahiers du Cinéma, they started as critics, and they became friends. They also did a movie together, shorts, and but the idea was they thought they love the American classics, so and they like people like Howard Hawks and Hitchcock, of course, and they said those guys deserve more credit. So they started with the idea that all the directors in Hollywood and everywhere, they got to be considered author of their work. So when you see a Hitchcock movie, you say it's a Hitchcock movie, so it's his own. So they start with that premises, and that's the basic idea. There's a lot of stuff also about it, but that was the basic idea. They were critics at the Les Cahiers du Cinéma at first.
Right. There's a famous book that Francois Truffaut was another shining light of the New Wave movement did with.
I have it here somewhere.
yeah, he did a series of interviews with Hitchcock where they went through all of the Hitchcock's movies.
It's probably the best book ever on a director. Also the one by Michel Simon on Stanley Kubrick is kind of a reference to.
Okay.
There's a lot of Hitchcock and Kubrick books here too.
But to your point, Roy, as far as the documentary goes, I think it's just the manner in which they film these things, where they kind of they seem to show up and just start filming. There's not a lot of elaborate setup where in American movies you always hear about the actors having to go to their trailers for hours as they set the shot and light the shot. And it seems like in the French New Wave films of this era, they just go in and kind of do it.
Well, they even use the term that it's almost it is experimental. So it's almost not being afraid of taking the risks. It's more the creative process that's driving it as opposed to the structure. It's less structured, but it's being willing to take the risks, I guess.
Yeah.
And that allows for more creativity to shine through and more expression. And I guess it almost seems like there were a lot of folks, I guess, in movie making at that time. I'm very intrigued by this whole thing because it's like I said, I've heard of it, I was aware of it, but I didn't know the depth of it. So it would almost, to actually explore this whole, I'll say, genre of filmmaking, to me it seems really quite interesting. But it's almost like it contradicts in some respects a style of filmmaking which, to what you were saying, is more structured, and it's interesting. And in regards to this, and I don't know if you know, but how long did this actually go on? Was this just something that was part of the 50s and the 60s, and then it started to dwindle? I mean, I didn't get beyond that as far as the research.
Do you want to answer, or do you want me to talk about it? We can both talk about it. But
yeah.
Do you want me to say something, or do you have something to say?
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Well, actually, it became very influential in American movies. The directors that were coming up at that time started to latch onto this stuff, and so you start getting some of these techniques turning up in mainstream. What were mainstream movies in the 70s? Films like the Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, and I don't know. I think Night of the Living Dead. I don't know if that's I know you want to do that film, Roy, for in the Halloween weeks, but I don't know if it's just because it was low budget and he didn't have the budget to really make but I think a lot of the techniques he uses in that movie are kind of new wave-ish.
Sure.
Certainly Pulp Fiction, but I think it's self-consciously so. I think it was a kind of a tribute to
I think I just talked about one. I forgot his name. The guy who did the JFK.
Oliver Stone.
When he did the Natural Born Killer.
I didn't see it, but
he about it too. You didn't see it?
No, but it makes sense because that is about the killers on the young couple on the run, right?
Yeah.
So
but the way the film is made, it's it's funny. It's really where it come from. The Breathless again.
Yeah.
Oh, Breathless. Yeah. Hey guys, I just want to welcome a few of the viewers that are out there that joined us. Craig is joining us from New Jersey. Craig is also part of the theater. Welcome, Craig. Good to see you out there. Linda is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Linda. I also see Dennis Chevalier is also joining us from Canada as well. So welcome, Dennis. Sherry's out there. Welcome, hun. And she's busting my chops because she's actually right now she's pet sitting. So we actually have not had the opportunity to see this, and she's busting me saying that this is how she gets to see me is through the show. Also, I see Phil is commenting real quickly. Just want to bring that up. Yes, Blade Runner, but Dick's novel came out before the film. Yes, this film influenced Philip K. Dick's novel, the film Blade Runner. Yes, for sure. So that was something I wanted to put out there. Also, let me see. I see Colin has switched over to YouTube. Thank you for doing that, Colin. Hope that's working okay. And Linda is also commenting. Oops. What she's saying. It's about the technical aspects of the show. So I'm going to skip through that. I also see Susanna Rama is out there. It's Linda. Okay, so Linda's joining us on YouTube. Okay, cool. Good to see you out there too. And then I think we're caught up here.
Everybody has multiple identities now. I'll never be able to keep track. Yeah.
Matt is commenting. He's saying, I was watching about directorial influence because I saw a lot of David Lynch in this film. Turns out that Lynch said the directors that most influenced him were Godard and some of the same directors that influenced him. Example, Hitchcock. So
it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, Phil, I'm sure Romero studied Alphaville, but maybe the influence pops up in his other work, maybe Season of the Witch. Okay.
Yeah. So and about Philip K. Dick, that book, Did Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, or Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, is very different from.
And that's
they made a lot of changes when they made the movie Blade Runner. Yeah.
That book is from the 50s, I think.
Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I read it not long before Blade Runner came out. Was the first time I read it. Yeah, back in the 80s or maybe 1980. Yeah. So,
when was the first time you actually saw this movie, Ross?
I never saw it.
Oh,
this is a movie. Yeah, this is a movie I always wanted to see, and I didn't think of it until I saw Godard's obituary, and I said, you know what? Because he's regarded as one of the most influential filmmakers. You know what I mean? This is like a world class, a superstar of world cinema. And I thought, well, did he do any science fiction? And I thought, oh, that's right, he did Alphaville. Because it's unlike any of his. I mean, in a way, it's like his other films, but it's unlike it because it's totally genre, but not. He takes all these pop cultural things, and you see it even in the dialogue and the names of the characters. I mean, he references. Agents Dick Tracy and Flash Gordon. You got the doctors Heckle and Jekyll.
Yeah.
You've got
003.
What is it?
003.
003, right. He's 003. And then you've got Professor Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Von Braun, who of course, Von Braun is the Nazi scientist that helped us with the rockets here in the US. Oh yeah, it's Dr. Von Braun.
It's like these breadcrumbs of references throughout this entire movie.
Yeah, on pop culture and
It would be really interesting
to know. Yeah, but French cinema is they like to do that a lot, even in those days. And as I said, they adapted a lot of old American novels and made them films. Sometimes it's the only time the novel was adapted, and it wasn't in France. So,
I'd be very interested to know what the actors were thinking while this was being made. You know what I mean? In regards to their thoughts and just, in regards to the plot and everything, because it is a sci-fi. It has the sci-fi elements, but it's really it's almost like instead of going to different planets and different galaxies. It's almost like you're going to different cities is what it is. And it would be very interesting just to know their feelings on it.
Yeah, but also it was made just a year after Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it made me think of that also from the Von Braun Nosferatu angle. Yeah. But it's certainly Anna Karina would have been on Godard's wavelength because she made a bunch of movies with him. But I'm curious about Eddie Constantine because he was an American, an American who went to Europe to make his
born in LA.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. But he played this character, this Lemmy Caution, in a number of straight noir movies, and then he goes and he makes this wildly experimental, film with Godard.
About that. Because yes, I read that you saw. I think you saw those early Lemmy Caution.
Yeah, I've never seen them, but I know he was in them. Yeah,
I had a rewatch of them last year, and
you have them.
Yeah, I want to be sure I didn't miss one.
Of course he asked him. Yeah. So, but he was such a good sport to do this movie, you know.
But the thing I want to say about that is when the press learned about Alphaville was in the making, and they said, okay, the new Godard is going to be something big, and they learned that Eddie Constantine was in it as Lemmy Caution. They said, well, what? Because I don't, they respected, they had they didn't like much, I think, the early Caution's films. You know. I saw it in a row last year again. I have to say it's not as bad as this. I think it was honest. No, it's really American style again, black and white, and all the thing you like in that version, but not the same budget as Hollywood. But honest film, funny and light and
yeah.
Okay, let's say
yeah. So it was a very different take on his character, Lemmy Caution. But it's kind of like, imagine if Harrison Ford played Indiana Jones in 4 or 5 movies, and then he went and did an Indiana Jones film directed by Lars von Trier or something. You know, people would be scratching their heads saying, "What did I just watch?"
kind of like what we were doing when we watched this. I mean, just for our viewers that have not seen this film, I mean, it really is. It's out there, but but if it wasn't, it wouldn't be this film. So it represents what it is, or it is what it represents, and that's what the film does throughout. It's like, what is one of the statements they say? You don't ask why, it's because. You know, it's things like that. It's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg, so to speak. Phil's commenting. He's saying, I feel like this movie could be remade as a killer anime with the story totally intact on all the camera work, angles, and shots the same, but a totally futuristic anime style sci-fi city.
Well, they could certainly do a straight noir with it, but then it loses it's not Godard anymore, you know.
Right.
It's things keep popping into my head, and I keep forgetting. It's a society where, you know, people are punished for illogical behavior. They're executed for illogical behavior. You're not allowed to exhibit emotion or love or, you know, quote poetry or what have you, or that makes you suspect. It's a science that's totally technologically based. It's all science. And in fact, the overlord of the whole thing is a computer. It's the Alpha 60.
Right. And before you go on, Ross, I'm just going to jump in there real quick with that and just say, as we like to say on this show, all roads do lead to Star Trek. And with that, this show, in my opinion, it really has a lot of, or I should say, classic Star Trek has a lot of connections with this, with Return to the Archons, that first season episode, where Landru is essentially guiding the culture. And I mean, don't they even rest in one point in this film? Don't they even use the term festival?
I think they do when they go to right before they go to the swimming pool.
Right. they reference that a festival is going on, and essentially in Star Trek in that episode, the computer's ideal is that essentially for like 12 hours, you pretty much let loose and just do crazy things and just emote. And then the other 12 hours, it's almost like you're a flatliner and you're just going through the motions. And it's just, there is no love. There is no poetry. There is no emotion. And you just go on with your daily routine, and that's it. And it's the computer's idea of what like the perfect world should be. And it's computer based. And that essentially is what's happening with Alphaville. It's a computer that's running the show. And the fact that the determination is being made whether or not individuals are going to live or die is taking place at a swimming pool. I mean, that was
where they execute them at the swimming pool. But how about the manner in which they do them? Yeah, they do the executions.
Good one, Roy. I didn't thought of it. No, it's a good one.
Oh, in reference to Trek, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get machine gunned, off the side of the pool, and then they have all the bathing beauties come up and knife their corpses, their dying corpses.
And then he asked the question: Is it only men that get executed? And he said, or what about the women? And he's like, well, it's for every 50 men, one woman gets it, and it's just.
It's got a sense of humor. I mean,
Yeah.
because afterwards, then the one starts doing the gym. What do they call that? It's not gymnastics, but the ballet, the choreographed thing in the pool after they kill God.
Right.
The movie as a whole, and a lot of these new wave films for me, they're really fascinating on one level, and on another level, they're just totally infuriating.
The absurd.
Yeah, it's like, because they get so stylized like that, that it makes me go, oh, come on.
Dennis, thanks for going on to YouTube. Much appreciated. Appreciate it.
Synchronized swimming. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Phil is saying there are no male seducers, and the women, with I think the exception of one, were not scientists.
Yeah, let me ask you, Christian, did you watch it, since you're a French language speaker, did you watch it with subtitles, or did you just watch it in French?
It's a long story. I'll try to make it short. I saw the film for the first time, I think, around 1975, 70. I was very young. And I saw maybe a second time in the 70s. And after that, never, until this week. Watch it Tuesday night.
Okay. So
I had to watch it again. That film was always, pop up in my mind, and I was haunted by the film, because I was, 13, 14 years old, but I'm sorry, I didn't appreciate it, all the things we said since the beginning tonight.
Right.
It was a must to rewatch it again, and I tried to rewatch it since 2004. Every time it was on somewhere, I always missed it. And but back in the 70s, we had, as you know, I was a lot in movie house and everywhere watching film on the big screen. But on the weekend here, we had movies for Friday night, Saturday night. It was blockbuster thing. But on Sunday night, there was on the French CBC, there was a kind of a repertoire festival every Sunday night. So that's where I saw I saw Nosferatu there the first time, and 8½, and the Misfit, sometime American film like the Misfit, Fellini, a lot of the French New Wave, Truffaut and Godard. So I had to rewatch it absolutely, because the film was, I was like haunted by the film since then, and to rewatch it, and every time you open a book, a movie book, and those books on 100 best film of all time, and 50, he's always in it with the Breathless, and it always bothered me. I had to rewatch it again, and it's funny because how the brain was, because I was watching it very focused Tuesday night, and how the brains were, because I was like, it was the feel of watching it for the first time, but at the same time, it's like I knew where I was going. Bits remaining, and after a while, so I remember that film well. After all, and it was special. So maybe I'm not. I'm cured from Alphaville, maybe.
I was going to say, it's interesting when you haven't seen a film for such a long period of time, and especially if it was when you were younger, and certain key aspects of it you tend to retain, or that you were impressioned with because of, for whatever reasons of from your youth. And then when you see it now, you may have a different, as you were saying, you have a more of an appreciation for it. I mean, you did say you saw it, I think you said in 2004, so you saw it since maybe the 70s. But it's amazing how when you do go back and see something again, how it just has a different impact, and a lot of things will seem maybe bigger, or different things will stand out that maybe didn't stand out, during the first pass around. So it's
But Roy, it's the same with Space 99. Roy, I'm sure you didn't appreciate it as much as you did later.
I'm going to take the fifth on that.
I think so for myself. I think because for me the series went from good to better and better and better since, for me. And
there's I mean, that, not to digress into 1999, but there are definitely episodes that I did not appreciate as much when I first saw them, in the 70s, and now I have more of an appreciation. The one that immediately comes to mind is the Infernal Machine with Leo McKern. I could not stand that when I was a kid. I just found it very boring, and it was just like, yeah. But now it's a very deep episode, and it's one I do appreciate very much so. So so yes.
Again, you have a computer ship, it's with his own brain. It's a ship with his brain.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, so you're well taken with your statement, with what you said about that, Christian. Definitely.
You guys are hijacking the show.
I'm using restraint, Ross. I'm using restraint because I'm being considerate. Hey, I want to welcome David. David is joining us out there. David, thanks for joining. And also, let me see. I did mention that Dennis did. Thanks for subscribing to Dennis. I just saw that. Oh,
no, what is that?
Looks like a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
I was just closing it.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, I started to ask you before, but maybe you didn't understand. I was wondering if when you watched the movie, Christian, if you watched it with the English subtitles on, or you just left those off and watched it strictly in French.
Tuesday night it was with the English subtitles.
Okay, so did your eyes at all travel?
Choice. I didn't have choice. It was there.
Right,
but
right.
I'm used to subtitles, but and this time I didn't. It's in French, so it's. But
right.
There was more information. Sometimes I didn't understand some of the Caution, Constantine lines, or Howard Vernon. So I have it right. it was okay.
For us, watching this, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Ross. Real quick, it's just that I was almost forced. A lot of times, like I'm watching something, I will listen and I'll look away. I had to stay glued to the screen because of the subtitles. I couldn't look away, but then it forced me to potentially take in more of what was going on, and maybe I wouldn't miss something, as opposed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We people are so accustomed now with the electronics, during the longueurs or whatever, they're going to like switch away to something else. While I sit there and watch it on a screen, but I know that, if you're on a computer, it's tempting to go to check your social media or look something up. So yeah, you have to watch it. But the reason I asked, Christian, is because I was wondering if you noticed any discrepancies any significant discrepancies between the subtitles in English and when they were speaking in French.
The translation.
Nothing important.
Nothing important.
Nothing important.
Because I noticed at the very end of the movie, there's an important line where, Anna Karina, who's Natasha von Braun, she finally learns to say "I love you," but she uses the "je vous aime" as opposed to "je t'aime." So, I found it interesting that she used she used the formal instead of the intimate, tu instead of vous. And I'm wondering, if that's something that jumped out at you, or if that's just something that would jump out at me as a, somebody who took a couple of years of French.
Yeah, your French is very good, because it doesn't bother me. I understand what you mean, but there's also I was like at the end I was also like visualizing in my mind the Blade Runner ending and watching the actual Alphaville ending. You know, so
Yeah.
I like to watch a film on a different level at the same time. So
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to go back and watch it over again after I watched it because I knew that I didn't catch everything the first time because I start thinking about things as it was going on. But did it strike you about the fact that she uses that form? Is that usual to use a vous instead of a tu when you tell somebody you love them? That's unusual, isn't it?
Okay, understand. Okay. It's because in French there's in French we have English is more practical. It's more practical. So in French, there's a lot of like la, le, it's the same. La, le is the la, le,
right,
equal de. So it's the same with you.
Right, but the connotation with vous is more of an impersonal.
You is for vous is for many people. Tu is central. You.
Right. And she uses vous instead of tu.
So what you're saying, Ross, is it's that verbiage is less intimate than.
Yeah, it just struck me as unusual. I was wondering if it struck him, Christian, as unusual as a native speaker.
Right.
Because usually you see it's a je t'aime instead of, but she says je vous aime. This is what she says.
You got it.
And is that something people say with the vous?
Well, it's
or is that only somebody who's just like falling from being brainwashed or have you?
Vous is something. It's like a word they use. I still use it sometimes with the ladies, but no, but it's something like from another century. Like it's now it's all it's more. I remember when I had the chance to speak with Nick Tate last year. After 1 minute, he said, "Christian, call me Nick. I will call you Christian." I was calling him sir. So that's it's about the same,
Okay, so it's less formal.
Exactly.
Right?
You got it.
And how about accents? Because since Eddie Constantine's an American. And Anna Karina is Danish. I mean, did you notice when you were watching it that everybody had very different French accents as they were speaking?
And Vernon is German.
German. Right. So you could hear that as you were watching because as an American, it's all the same to us.
I like the fact that Eddie Constantine still has his American accent. And his French was very good. There for I don't know 15 years or more, and so I like the fact because it's like an American movie dubbed in French. That's a point.
Yeah, he had a great voice. Had a great face. Didn't he? That craggy, noir face.
Well, he was a singer too. I was reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's very very good entertainer then.
Yeah.
Well, very well rounded.
Yeah, I'll let that to Ross later, maybe for the music chapter.
Well, yeah, I forget. Right, I don't know that I'd mentioned that, but yeah, sure. But in American movies, our tough guys like George Raft and
Cagney
and Cagney. Thank you, and the guy we mentioned last week from Law and Order. Brosco or whatever his name is.
Jerry
Orbach. All these tough guys all had backgrounds in dance and musicals. But so all the different accents. All right. And you mentioned a couple of times. You mentioned Howard Vernon, who's an actor we didn't talk about. He plays Professor Nosferatu or Von Braun. He's in a lot of the Jess Franco films.
Exactly. He started with Franco with the horrible Dr. Orloff.
Right, Dr. Orloff.
But with Franco, it's the only director with which Vernon was the lead actor a lot in those films. But he played a lot of if you remember, he did a lot of Nazis in the American film, like I only remember the train with the John Frankenheimer.
with Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
And
He was
Man for All Seasons. What's his name? You know the actor I'm talking about, the British actor plays the Nazi.
The Oscar winner.
Yeah. Why can't I think of his name now? It's on the tip of my tongue. Paul Scofield.
Paul Scofield.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and Jess Franco, as if The Hague were out there, he'd know all of his movies. He does all of these low budget horror movies and kind of quasi, I don't know, erotic films.
and he spoke a lot of language. He was a fine actor. He did a lot. A bit like Kinski, like Klarschinsky. He wasn't.
Yeah.
So also there's an interesting. Well, for the French, you remember the Amicus film, the Beast Must Die with Peter Cushing and
right.
He dubbed Peter Cushing in French in that. So the last time the film was on my other channel, I had to watch it just for that.
It's very interesting. I forgot that. Let's see, favorite parts of the movie: Caution Cop. It's very interesting that thinking about the fact that Howard Vernon played Dracula in Dracula versus Frankenstein. And I forget when that was made, if that was made after this, because they refer to him in this film as Dr. Nosferatu. And there he would still have the connections because of his horror films that he was making with Franco. But the fact that Nosferatu is a vampire and Dracula's,
That one is special. It was made in the early 70s.
Early 70s, yeah. I knew it was.
And I saw it on the big screen then.
Oh, my goodness. I'll never forget the ending of that movie. Yeah.
It was a 3-hour film festival.
Okay.
Phil just commented. He said didn't even notice different accents in the French, but I did find the sequences that went totally silent kind of shocking. I thought I accidentally muted on my TV.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Really.
That was another one of the things they played with in this movie was the sound and the random placement of the music. They'd have these characteristic noir, you'd have the urgent kind of sinister noir music, or then you'd have the love theme, but they just dropped them in at random and then they just cut them off. It was just kind of like with the visuals, with the jump cutting.
Right. It was very, very abrupt. Hey, I want to welcome Warren. Warren's out there. Warren, welcome. He's saying Canadians represent again tonight.
There you go.
Hey, and actually, Christian, Phil actually had a question, and it was, do you see the influence of this film in Space 1999 anywhere? That's a good question.
The futuristic, but it's the 60s. It's not the 70s.
Yeah.
I was so much in it Tuesday night. I was maybe, but it was really on the futuristic Paris. It's like the Avengers, but the series. It was futuristic in the 60s, but in the 90s when they made the film, it was something from the past. So
what's interesting too is this movie. There was only a 17-year difference between this movie and Blade Runner, which is you would think it would be a lot more than that, but
yeah, that's mind blowing.
Yeah. In itself, it really, really is.
Yeah.
Well, if there's something from, it's really the architectural look of it. Maybe at some point, I don't know if Phil saw something more. So I'd like to know.
Yeah, let us know, Phil. Warren is saying, and I think this came up before, David Lynch's style and sound design.
Yeah. What about that annoying beep that they kept playing? And you kept thinking it was something in the house because it wasn't quite blended with the sound design.
Nothing was in alignment with this film. That's just it. It's like they would throw something out there, or he would throw something out there, and it would just like keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
And then they would flash E equals MC square across the screen as well too.
Right. Yeah. The technological society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The I
Also
was going to
mention,
mention. Good.
I'm just digressing here. It's because I said to Roy that Eddie Constantine did some work in the States. He went back in the 70s and he did the second It's Alive film.
Oh, did he?
Because
Right.
he was the director, Larry Cohen, brother-in-law.
Remember you saying?
Oh, you knew Larry Cohen? You're saying
His brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Oh, Larry Cohen was the brother-in-law of Eddie Constantine. I didn't know that. Okay. Wow. All right.
I saw one of those movies. It's Alive. Wasn't that with the baby carriage?
This is the baby. Yeah, the
Baby
mutant
in the carriage. That was like the poster for that
right.
movie.
The poster, right?
Yeah.
It's the second one. It's not the first one.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it lives again.
It lives. Yeah. Phil said felt like the music soundtrack was sort of a parody. I ended up ignoring it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the movie parts of it were almost like parody.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. It kind of was a surfacey noir, and then it was all like just how they played with the process of making film. You know, it was like, how can we make this movie? He was just more interested in making the movie, I think, than he was in making a noir. but they did a lot of stuff with also that we probably won't get too deeply into. But there were all these philosophical asides, and there were all these references to kind of literary critics or literary theorists. You know, they're you know, it starts with the Borges quote at the beginning of the movie, and you know, Jorge Luis Borges is always writing about dreams and labyrinths and mirrors and mythology, and it turned out that also Roland Barthes who's a literary theorist, and he's one of those semiotic theorists. You would know this stuff if you were into like English literature in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, this is all stuff that was going on in the English departments in the universities by the 1980s. I was totally not buying into it, but they wanted to get him to play Dr. Nosferatu before they got Howard Vernon. He was his first choice was Roland Barthes. So I ran a bookstore for a while, Christian, and from a perspective of
I know that
of selling books, it was always good to have Roland Barthes books in the store because they would sell. But as far as the contents of the books, I wasn't really so much into his stuff.
But did you add some a lot of Peter Cheney's novel?
Peter, the guy who wrote the actual the first he created the character.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any of those. Yeah, the Lemmy Caution character. Yeah. He's a British writer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Jack Kerouac. Yeah. I never saw that quote, but that about sums it up. It's a dead museum, neon aspects of Einsteinian relativity. You know, I never thought much of Kerouac either, but he's my new hero.
You know, it's funny. Kerouac's family was from here. So I heard him speak. He speak, like a French Canadian. He spoke like a French Canadian, but he wasn't.
Really?
Spent his life in the Massachusetts somewhere.
Right.
There's a lot of French Canadians there at the time, still today.
I wonder if it's something where. I wonder if it's something where it came back to him when he went home, and he kind of fell back into the accent or what have you. Because I never noticed, when he was here that he had that.
But his home was there, but his origin was from here. But he talked like people here.
Yeah.
He spoke like people here. It was the same. I thought it was really. I just found out last year on a CBC French interview.
Okay.
Martin commented. He said, "The only thing I can think of is that Space 1999 and may have been influenced by the Guardian of Prey with the computer taking control of everything." Totally agree with you with that, Martin. In fact, at one point, they deal with the light, looking into the light, and that was something as in regards to the Guardian. So yeah, definitely, which is very similar to that of Return to Tomorrow from
Zombies, right?
Yep, zombies, exactly.
Zombies.
Just being brainless, not being able to think for yourself, and just exist.
Again, Night of the Living Dead. Yeah.
Yep. Which ties into what you were saying earlier, Ross, about that being an influence as well.
Yeah. So, and then you had the requisite existentialism. You always have to have a little existentialism in the middle of these things, underlying the new wave films. Yeah. That's like a lot of the points, that I had come up with anyway. Let's see. Still fall for the trick. Yeah. Yep. They're speeding ahead with the AI and everything else. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's
not going to end well.
It's getting closer and closer each day. Warren is saying, "I never noticed, but when you pull up comments on the screen, the person's profile pic is displayed large." Matt Anthony, yours is frightening.
He's got this Santo mask, the wrestler mask.
Yeah. That never ceases to amaze. Even when Matt's not saying anything. Poor Matt. Am I crazy, or did anyone else see the electric complex in this film?
Interesting. I guess there's a lot to see in this film.
There really, really is.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again. Yeah, good.
I was going to say, just to throw a few images up there for the folks to say.
I watched it. I don't know. You should check with your local public libraries, because you may or may not know this, but there's a service called Canopy with a K. And you can watch a lot of these Criterion films free, streaming them through if you have your library card, you can set up an account and watch them. So
good to know.
At least in the United States.
It's about the poem, the poetry scene.
Oh, the poetry scene, right? Yeah.
And then Karina died just before COVID.
What was that before COVID? What?
2019.
What did you say about it?
She died.
Oh, she died just before. Wow.
Yeah, really? December. Yep.
Wow. I love that coat on the right there.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna have to resurrect that at Christmas. It's a great coat.
It's the same as Bogart.
Oh, his is, yeah, but hers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jack commented, "This film reminded me of Eraserhead at times because of the random style of editing and the unsettling use of sound that rattles your senses."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Thanks.
And don't think for a minute that these guys it was an accident. Anybody who cared about film, any of these film students were all watching these movies at the time, whether it was Lynch or George Romero, or Martin Scorsese, or Francis Coppola. That was some weird film. Yeah, it was a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah, Ross was giving me the warning.
It's fascinating though, because since it's a genre that we know so well, and there's so much there to kind of latch onto, and then just to constantly have the rug pulled out from under you. It's like we're kind of seeing the film noir through some kind of weird hall of mirrors. In fact, now that I mentioned Hall of Mirrors, I was thinking about, as I watched the movie Lady from Shanghai, which I know Christian's got to know, the Orson Welles movie.
One of my favorite, yeah.
Yeah, that's the famous mirror scene, Funhouse finale or what have you. And I was thinking about the fact that when Orson Welles needed money for some project or other, he was working. I I think he was at a restaurant on the phone. He was talking to some producer on the phone. And that's what it was. And he was at the hat check. And he was trying to raise money. And he's telling the producer that he had this great story. And the producer wanted to know what it was. And he grabbed the book from the hat check girl. And it was Lady from Shanghai. He says, it's great. This is what it's about. So he got the money to make Lady from Shanghai. So he goes and makes this film noir with himself as star with Rita Hayworth. And I just think it's the polar opposite of what this movie is in terms of technique, because in The Wells, you can really see how every moment of the film is thought out. And it's very carefully shot. You've got the shadows, you got the crazy mirror sequence. And in this one, they just kind of go into a room and they just, okay, you get behind that desk and they don't care if somebody's, washed out by the sunlight or what have you. They just film,
Hey, Roy. Sorry. Roy.
Yeah.
You have your Space 99 connection. Seed of Destruction.
I was thinking the same thing. You read my mind on that, Christian, because it's a hall of mirrors. It's
Hall of Mirrors.
in that episode. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. There it is.
Sorry, Russ.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's about all I really needed to say, except for the fact that they shared the same, not that particular film, but Orson Welles used the composer for this movie in one of his subsequent movies.
Now, so, Bill, I'd like to jump in too, because Bill is a huge Orson Welles fan. So, Bill, I just want to ask you if you have anything to comment in regards to that. Just to put that out there.
Yeah, and actually, Welles' later movies, come to think of it, I never thought of it before, but the one that's what's it called? The one that's on Netflix. It was just completed. That was left incomplete at the time of his death. Behind the Wind, or I don't know, something like that. I mean, there's a lot of kind of new wave sensibility in that movie.
Yeah. And the one in Mexico about the samba.
What, this particular movie? That one?
I don't remember the title, but I saw it. It was an unfinished film about samba.
Yeah, it kept. I don't know if the whole thing was about samba. Well, there's the one. Are you thinking of the one where he went down? It's All True, or whatever it was. The one he did right after Kane, because that's the one where he went to Rio for the carnival. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Was it from the 40s or from later? Like, was it a color film or black and white?
I think it was after Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil. Okay.
Just after.
Sure.
Because when he wrapped up Touch of Evil, he just left, and the producer did the editing. So that's why when you have the DVD, you have three different editing on the DVD or the Blu-ray.
Right. Yeah,
but it's very confusing. Wells after that Touch of Evil, because it's his last American film. It's one of his best again.
Yeah, they recut it on him. Is what happened, and then they cut it back to what they think was his intention. Yeah.
In my edition, I have the book. Of his notes for the re-editing his own ways. There's a book in the box set with the tradition of the film.
Okay.
For the film series that Bill did at Country Gate in the month of July, one of the Orson Welles films was The Stranger, and that really dealt with a lot of the film noir, the camera angles and the shadows and everything, and it was very, very well done. But
the Third Man is another big one. The Carol Reed film with Joseph Cotton and Wells.
Right.
That's another one that was in every book.
Right. Where he plays Harry Lime.
Yeah. From the
Carol Reed directed it, but but he's got that. He's not in it very long, but he's the most memorable part of the movie. Yeah.
Actually, like Brando in Apocalypse Now. Like Brando in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. Right.
When I think of Joseph Cotton, I think of that. What was it? That movie with Jennifer Jones, Portrait of Jenny.
Oh, Portrait of Jenny. Yeah.
That's one that Bill likes a lot. I know too. And then Deborah, who's out there, she's a huge film noir fan as well too, and a huge Bogart fan.
Bogart's good medicine.
Yeah.
I never get tired of watching his movies. Yeah.
And also Cotton, the Hitchcock's film he made
Shadow of a Doubt.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great one too. The Merry Widow Killer. Yeah.
Warren's trying to be funny. Here you go.
Did you have a hard time growing up and your parents decided to name you Classic? Yeah, there you go. It's a lot to live up to. A lot of pressure, Warren.
Phil commented too. Yeah, lots of reflection in the glass doors and glass elevators. Yeah, and I thought that was very interesting because they specifically held that angle as the camera dropped, it followed all the way down, and then even when they got out, I thought that was really done very well.
Yeah. So there's an example, though. They did so many random things in the movie, but they actually did something there deliberately with the reflections. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was hard to do. They had to synchronize the two elevator to do the shot.
Right. Well, there was kind of a touch of evil type moment in the film where there was an unbroken shot where they were going down one of the. They came up the elevator, I think, and then went down the corridor, and there was no break. They didn't cut during the course of that.
Which is quite impressive, actually, to do that.
Yeah, especially at that time. Yeah,
I mean,
Orson Welles
they just did a movie, and I say just, it was probably in the last 3 years, where I believe when they filmed it, it was literally one continuous shot.
Yeah,
really messes with your mind because it's almost like you need those breaks. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's annoying.
It was I think it was 1917 it was called, right?
Yes.
The war movie. Yeah. I saw it, and they did clever things. They go into a shadow or something, and that's when you knew that they switched the
right.
But it was very well done, for being a gimmick. You kind of didn't notice it. It was kind of
that was Hitchcock's gimmick, for the rope.
Rope, right. It was only when they had to change the reel, of film that they would break. So what was it, like 10-minute chunks or something where it was unbroken shots.
Yeah, Phil's saying this is a tough movie to watch during the day with the sun streaming in your windows, running to whole dark effect. What did you guys think of the use of the negative effects or the?
Yeah, that was interesting. See, that's one of the reasons I'd have to go back to watch it, because there were a couple of times where it went negative like that, and I wanted to know if there was a reason or if it was just random. Did you notice the use of the negative in there, Christian? Where they reversed the image.
The idea was to the negative was the idea was at the end things was on the right way, so the positive was negative and the negative means positive at the end.
Well, that makes sense, right? It does.
It's a parallel universe. It's a parallel movie.
Really relevant from all the things in the movie.
Yeah. As I said, but between watching the film, seeing what he was doing as a filmmaker, and taking that in and catching the subtitles, sometimes things started to get away from me, and I wanted to go back and watch it a second time, but I never got around to doing it. So.
Well, it was easy to miss. I mean, you're trying to take in the subtitles and you're trying to digest what's being said, and then you're also trying to look at the imagery of what's on the screen. And
and what he's doing with his hijinks with the technical stuff that he was doing.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot going on. Very busy.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, could you see a sequel of this movie being made? I don't mean a remake. I mean a sequel.
Well, now that Eddie Constantine's no longer with us.
I mean, at the time, rather. I'm sorry.
But I heard that Godard. I heard Constantine again in the 90s. I have to check about that. I don't know if it was only a tribute thing or a clin d'œil or
like a cameo.
a cameo, maybe in the 90s. But Godard made a lot of different things. He was very experimented a lot, and up to last year he was working on 2 movies at the same time, and it was to be his last film. But I think they are not finished.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Constantine. As I said, he made a whole lot of these Lemmy Caution things straight, and then he did this experimental thing, and then he turned up, and I think 2 more films as Constantine, but they may have been, like Christian said, cameos or small parts and tongue in cheek. I think they weren't supposed to be serious. I don't think.
No,
Right.
but he did another one after Alphaville, and also they did in the 80s. I saw all of them, but later in the 80s he came back, but I don't remember if it was his Lemmy Caution character, because they shot an opening of the film. It's a French film. The opening is film in New York this time, the real New York.
Not Nueva York.
and after the opening credit, we are back in France. It's but he's older, and but it's about. I don't remember if it's the same character, but it's Lemmy Constantine for sure. He was.
How can you tell he's older? Like at that point where he said he was 45, I almost fell out of my chair.
I know, right?
He's 107.
Matt commented, Father von Braun creates a society devoid of emotion and sensuality, going as far as creating a dictionary of acceptable terms. This scenario seems to be a reflection of nuclear family values in 1965 that were being questioned when this movie was being filmed. Caution, as someone who questions language, expression, and norms, may be the ultimate hippie revolutionary with a pistol and fedora. Patriarchy attacked by the coincidental symbol of patriarchy.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Bibles,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that made me think, boy, when was the last time I saw a Bible in a hotel room? Remember, it was always you went to a motel, there was always a Bible. I don't think you get them anymore.
I've still seen them there.
You see them in motels? You see them up at Ticonderoga, I bet.
Yeah.
It's probably the last place that has them. The last place that has them. The motels in Ticonderoga. It just seems like whenever I travel anymore, I never see. And it used to be all the time.
Oh yeah, it was.
But you know what? They don't even have dressers anymore.
No.
There's no furniture anymore.
Coffee is now the staple instead of the Bible. You must have a coffee maker in the hotel room.
Grab and go breakfast. Yeah.
Maybe it was the church, for the morality things, and it's a motel. Right. So maybe I don't know. The church was very strong then.
Yeah.
Still some time to do.
Phil said, this discussion is making me think of the film Holy Motors. My nephew loved that film. I hated it, but maybe I totally missed the point. Still the same type of filmmaking, I think.
I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, me too.
It seems vaguely familiar, but it could just be a planted suggestion. It's true. Sometimes somebody will say something and I'll think I remember it. And it's like, no, it was just the person mentioning it that made me think I remembered it.
Matt says you only travel to aesthetic hotels.
Atheistic hotels. Yeah, it's true. Holy Motors.
Yeah.
All right. That's my new exclamation, by the way.
Yeah.
Holy Motors.
Holy Motors, Batman. So Ross, as we start to wind down, music. Let me share.
All right.
A bit of Herman, maybe.
What is it? A bit of bourbon?
I thought of while I was listening the other on Tuesday night. Sometimes I felt like Herman was somewhere there. Bernard Herman.
Oh, Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like that, that kind of the sinister music that they kept playing. And also the love theme reminded me a little bit of, it wasn't, but it reminded me of a little bit of Andre Previn's love theme for a film called Dead Ringers, with Betty Davis, directed by Paul Henreid. But I know it wasn't, because that may very well have been filmed around this time. But the composer was Paul Mirsky, or I'm sorry, Paul Mizrachi. Paul Mizrachi. He lived from 1908 to 1998, so a good long life, and had a 60-year career. He wrote movie music until the age of 85. Worked with a lot of major filmmakers, especially in France, of course. But he was born in Turkey to French Jewish parents who were of Italian descent. So obviously during, he was in Paris, he studied music in Paris, but during World War II, obviously he left and came to the United States. He stopped briefly in Argentina, lived there for a little bit, but came to the United States. He was largely a composer of, popular music. He was a jazz composer, wrote some popular tunes. He was an arranger and a writer of popular songs. And yeah, he fell into film composing, and he worked with a lot of major directors. Christian mentioned Melville, the Jean-Paul Melville, the French director. Jean Renoir did all of his American movies here. He did a film for Orson Welles called Mr. Arkadin, one of Orson's later movies. He worked with Louise Buñuel. All these, Roger Vadim, he did God Created Women. And what struck me is that he had this strange kind of eccentric side enthusiasm for UFOs and extraterrestrials. He was all into extraterrestrial life, and even wrote a book about it under a nom de plume, a pen name. Paul Thomas was the name he took. He wrote a book on ancient astronauts. And he didn't want to use his real name because he didn't want to affect his career, opportunities, as a composer. So he wrote this under an assumed name, but apparently he was very much into the belief in extraterrestrial life and UFOs and that sort of thing. There were a couple of groups that named themselves after. They referred to Alphaville, and then there's Alphaville, which was is a German band. There was Alpha 60, which is a Swedish alternative rock band, and there's a song by the Doors apparently that was inspired by the film called End of the Night. So, and I'm sure that's not all. I mean, a lot of people make reference to Alphaville, but that just in the music, that's what I came up with.
There's an 80 band. A band from the 80s called Alphaville.
Alphaville,
big
right.
Japan, big in Japan, their biggest hits.
Yeah. So that's all I've got on it.
Gotcha.
The composer, Miss Rocky.
I was wondering, because I did ask you on your page, but I mentioned a French film composer. I'm sure you know of him. His name is Philippe Sard.
Oh yeah, Philippe Sard. Yeah, he does Polanski.
Because of Polanski's The Tenant music,
right? And Pirates.
Yeah.
But we'd rather forget that one, right?
Pirates.
Yeah, but yeah, I know his name. In fact, he did. I think he may have done Queen Margot, and he's done a number of French movies that have come to the United States. Yeah.
I really like The Tenant. Everything of it.
Lieutenant?
The Tenant.
Oh, The Tenant. The Tenant. Yeah, okay. The Tenant, of course. I do remember you mentioning that now. I thought you said Lieutenant, but it's The Tenant. Totally different name. Yeah. Sure. I know The Tenant.
So do you think this is is this a movie that you're going to revisit shortly, Ross, to rewatch soon, do you think?
I'd be inclined to rewatch it sooner than later, just because I've just seen it, and I kind of want to watch it to kind of pick up, anything I might have missed. And I wouldn't object to watching it again in a couple of years.
I personally would be very interested in seeing Eddie Constantine in other roles. That's
or the earlier ones. I would like to see the straight Lemmy Caution movies where he's just playing the tough guy.
Right. Just to see his range and just to see how he is, how he comes in, and also to see him, performing in English. I think that would be interesting. So now
it's very good, but I like the fact that he kept his American accent.
Yeah. I thought, and I was thinking that maybe he was dubbed for this movie, but he wasn't. So that's impressive that it was him speaking the part. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he did well.
Yeah, he definitely did. But
was he known in the States?
I don't know. It's one of those things where I read his name and I thought I knew.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Obviously he had to go to Europe to make a name for himself.
But
that's just what happened, though. He didn't do very well over here, and I think he got discouraged. And then he also, I believe, he was doing training when he was in Europe, and that's what led to him going back there. When he,
I also saw him in a British film with Dinah Dors in the late 50s too. I don't remember. I have it here because I keep notes on my viewing, Ross.
Oh, you do? For every movie you watch, you keep notes?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow. How many movies do you think you watch in a week?
I can tell you in a year.
You can average it out then, huh? But you watch them. Do you watch something every day, or
at least 365 a year?
Wow.
At least.
Because as I said at the beginning of the show, you're one of the most knowledgeable commenters that we have, as far as making references to, you're drawing connections to other movies. You've obviously, and of all genres, that's the thing. It's not everybody's got their niche. It's like I'll know a lot about one kind of movie, or somebody else will know a lot about another kind of movie. But it seems like you've seen all of them. Oh, Jess Franco, sure, that's such and such.
Christian has no bounds.
It's funny because, I think that's what I want to say. Okay, continue. Maybe it will come back. Go ahead.
Oh well, yeah. It's in my peak movie watching period. I would watch a couple.
Okay, I have it. Okay. There's a French rock star in the 60s. He was big. I don't know his real name, but his stage name is Eddie Mitchell. And he watched two movies a night. I did for a while, but it's like the day after I can't remember the first one I watched the night before. So maybe one is enough.
Maybe one is enough. Yeah, I would watch 2 or 3 in a night at the peak of my when I was watching Turner Classic Movies, the classic films.
Yeah.
It would just be on all the time. So I'd just be, watching these things around the clock. But
so I have to keep notes. The notes keep me
keep you, yeah. At one point I thought I wanted to be involved in film. And so I was going to see 2 or 3 movies in the theater a day when I was in college, on the weekends. So, but I don't watch as many now, unfortunately.
The music is a big part of your life. So
it's a big part of my life, and I don't get as much time in front of the TV as I used to.
Yeah. Time is the enemy, I know.
Yeah. And you also paint, correct? You're a prolific painter.
I don't paint much more. I'm more to the drawing.
Your drawings are amazing. Your artwork is amazing, though, Christian.
I like to draw, and at the end it looks like a painting, but it takes more time, much more time.
What attracted you to the movies? Were you always just into watching movies, or was there a reason that you?
I don't know. When I was in Montreal, I was really a TV.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I thought movies were too long. I remember my mother was having me to watch The Bridge on the River Kwai, and said, "Oh my God, it's never gonna end, that film." No? And a few years later, when we moved on the South Shore, I remember I was on the basement with the first guy I knew here, and we were watching a Jeff Chandler film, a war film, and during the film, I said, "Hey, something happened." I fell in love with just with the film. It wasn't it, and since then, I love movies. I was 8 years old at
8
that
years
time.
old. Yeah.
We're talking October 1969, and since then, it's like an obsession. And when we moved there, I remember we were painting. The TV was on, and there was a War Wagon on TV. So I was like always. So it's I don't know. It's something like love, like falling in love with it. And it grows and grows and grows. In the late 70s, I did my bunch of experimental film. I did a lot of reading, so I like, why not keep it in practice? So I did a few of those with big hopes, but also at the same time I was playing in a garage band, rock band. So it's hard sometimes to be the master of your destiny. A lot of things can.
Some of the final comments coming through. Phil saying, does the whole Eddie Constantine story make you think of Patrick McGowan?
Yeah.
Secret agent and danger man to the prisoner. Good.
Yeah,
point.
that's really interesting because it is kind of like that. Yeah.
The ending of Alphaville, and the ending of about the computer, the famous riddle for the computer to destroy himself, and the fallout. The last 2 episodes of The Prisoner is about the same.
Yeah, it starts the cycle all over again. Warren was commenting about your drawings, saying that they're spectacular, Christian, just to put that out there.
Thank you, Warren.
Martin saying Room 43 was the Diana Doors. And,
yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Yep. And Phil saying Bridge over the River Kwai, long but not as long as trying to drive across the DWB Bridge.
Yeah, Bridge Washington.
But later, I really appreciated the Bridge on the River Kwai and all the David Lean's big epic films, and also his earlier work at the Rank and Getting Studios and everything.
Oh yeah,
there's so much there too.
Christian, Matt's asking, he's commenting that you mentioned Joseph Cotten earlier. In the theme of Halloween, he made a low-budget horror at the end of his career. I wonder if you had seen it. And it was called Island of the Fishermen and Barren Blood. Of course you saw it.
Also, he did
he did the Hearse too.
He was in Italy, and he also did Lady Frankenstein, the Mel Wells.
Oh my God. And wasn't he in the Dr. Phibes also? He's in Dr. Phibes, wasn't he?
The first one. Peter Cushing.
Poor Joseph Cotten. Yeah.
I know, right? He went from that.
Also, the famous Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
Oh, Heaven's Gate. Right. I was shocked to see him in that. Yeah. Wow.
I want to do that movie, Ross. We got to discuss that.
What, Heaven's Gate? Oh, you're thinking of another movie though. Oh, are you thinking about the movie I was, what I said, it was like the story of mankind or something, right?
Yeah.
Heaven's Gate's different.
One.
That's Michael Cimino. Yeah.
I do want to do the one with Warren Beatty.
Oh, that Heaven Can Wait.
Heaven Can Wait. What am I?
Yeah.
It said Heaven's Gate.
Not Reds.
A lot of Heaven movies.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Christian, on this movie?
Yeah.
That we didn't touch on?
There was something else.
Before Roy goes to the shout-outs?
Yeah. Maybe you can go to the shout-outs, and I don't know.
Yeah, we'll circle back. Ross, do you have any comments before we do that?
No, I think I said enough. Everybody's probably, anybody who hasn't seen the movie doesn't know what we're talking about anyway.
Oh, that's like that with any movie.
Yeah.
There's something.
You go ahead, Christian.
Last night, I just this is something because this week I was looking for Godard all stuff on YouTube and everything, and I saw something I saw before, and I totally forgot about it. It's a 10-minute something filmed on and it's Godard in the editing room with criticizing Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. So it was a different point of view because he didn't like it at all, but he liked Kubrick, but not this one. So it was interesting. I like Full Jacket, of course.
Do you think this was an excerpt from a larger film? Because he did a whole series called, I think it was called L'Histoire du Cinéma or something. That was like a story of cinema, basically. And I've not, I hate to say it, I own it, but I've never watched it. It was given to me by a friend, and I've not gotten it out of the shrink wrap yet. But
well, it's the only one. The only one I say was about Full Jacket, and he made his point, but I think he didn't understood that it was based on the Gustav Asford novel, the Short Timers, and the Kubrick, with all his perfection and everything. He really respected the novel, because I read the novel before watching the film, and it was really great, wonderful, as Kubrick as always. But because I'm a bit because Kubrick is my favorite director of all time. But
is he?
I appreciated a lot of filmmakers, a lot.
Phil, everyone is being held prisoner by Alpha 60 now. All right. With that, we're going to go to the shout outs, and then we'll come back. So let me just go ahead and do that real quickly. And let me do that. Okay. So shout out to Mike, our friends Mike and Mary Beth, who are on Sci-Fi Distilled. They are on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. They'll be back this Wednesday, September 28th. And they will be discussing the 1986 film Highlander, and it is the first film of that series. So check them out, Mike and Mary Beth on Sci-Fi Distilled. Next, want to give a big shout out to my friend Bill Scarrato from Countrygate Players. As everybody knows, in regards to COVID, it really hurt a lot of theaters around the world in regards to theaters not being able to do performances. So there was only one show one production that was early in the year. But what Bill's been doing is he's been coming up with different projects. In July, there was a film festival of films such as I was mentioning earlier, The Stranger, and a lot of the older type films. And speaking of film noir, for October, for the month of Halloween, which is right around the corner, there's a lineup of films scheduled, and it's going to be starting on actually October 8th with The Night of the Living Dead. We were talking about that movie with George A. Romero's film. And then on October 15th, coming in with the 100th anniversary, it's Nosferatu. So that's going to be shown. And then on October 22nd, it is going to be Little Shop of Horrors. And this is the original Shop of Horrors. This is the... it's not a musical, but horror / comedy, I should say. And this is from the 1960s. And then for the weekend of October 29th and October 30th, October 29th, Saturday at 8 p.m. and then October 30th at 2 p.m. It's going to be the matinee. It's going to be kind of a Mystery Science Fiction Theater 3000 meets, we'll say, Rocky Horror. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a showcasing the film Plan 9 from Outer Space, but then there's going to be Countrygate Players that are going to be involved with it as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and that's actually rehearsals have started with that. So we're looking forward to doing that as well. So stay tuned for that information. You can find out about it if you are in the Belvedere, New Jersey area and you'd like to come for information. Go to two ways you can go about it. You can go to Bill's website, which is www.billscarrato.com. Or you can check out the Facebook page for Countrygate Players as well, too. And again, the information will be posted there. And then next, I want to give a shout out to Captain Phil. Captain Phil Merkel is out there. Phil, if you could let everybody know what you've got going on. Phil's schedule is it's on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. And then he also has performances going on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And then also a quick shout out to Todd's Corner. Todd is also another friend that does that the show with Gordon Moriguchi, and it is on Sundays at 2 p.m. It is currently on hiatus, but Todd and Gordon will be back, so stay tuned in regards to information in regards to that. And also, Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on and what's planned.
Okay, these are the two programs I've got on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show. That's tomorrow night at 6. This week I'm focusing on the films of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. They made 12 movies together, but of course everybody was more interested in their tempestuous personal life. But I've got an interesting assortment of music. Alex North's music for Cleopatra, and also Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Miklos Rozsa's score for the VIPs, and Nino Rota's score for the Franco Zeffirelli version of The Taming of the Shrew. And I'll write more about that for posting on my Facebook page tomorrow to tease the show Picture Perfect at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And my Facebook page is Classic Ross Amico. You can read about it there. Sunday night, I'm remembering a Philadelphia composer by the name of Romeo Cascarino. He was born in South Philly 100 years ago, and he was deeply involved with the musical fabric of the city, but he spent 30 years laboring at an opera on William Penn, and it was finally performed at the Academy of Music there in 1982, I believe it was, for the 300th anniversary of the founding of the city. So I've got his widow, the soprano Dolores Ferraro, and the critic from the Philadelphia Daily News, one-time music critic from the Philadelphia Daily News, Tom DiNardo, and they're on to talk about Romeo Cascarino, and we'll have some recordings on there, some private recordings, family recordings, and some from an album conducted by Joanne Folletta. And, just it'll be an interesting hour as we remember this relatively unknown composer, unfortunately, on the 100th anniversary of his birth. So that's Sunday night at 10 on The Lost Chord. And again, you can find out more about it on my Facebook page, Classic Ross Amico. I'll post about it on Sunday morning of the show. And the show airs on WWFM.org. If you can't catch it at the time that's indicated, they are posted later as webcasts on the website. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Ross. And with that said, Ross and I will be back now next week, September 30th. We are coming into Halloween season. So Halloween month is going to be beginning early for us because next Friday is actually September 30th. However, we will be starting with the classic 1973 film Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, starring Kim Darby. So for you folks out there, it's crazy to think that this movie is going to be 50 years old.
And William Demarest.
Yes. Yeah. And Kim Darby, there's the Star Trek connection right there. She was Miri in the title episode. So yes, we're going to be discussing the original film, folks. There was a remake within the last, I'll say, probably 5 or 6 years. It's probably more like 10, but anyway, we will be discussing that. And then also, we got a pretty good lineup scheduled that we're working on. It's not official yet, but we have a lot of good stuff coming down for the month of October for Halloween. So we will be posting that shortly. And actually, maybe what we'll even do is, and I'm spraying this on Ross as we're speaking. He's probably ready to look into the camera and go, "What the heck are you talking about?" Maybe we could even do like a. I don't even have to look, and I know Ross is giving me the look. Maybe we could do like a 15-minute impromptu, coming attraction of what our month of October will look like. What do you think, Ross?
You mean another time, right?
What's that?
Another time, right?
Not tonight, no.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. No, in like half an hour. Surprise. There you go. Anyway. Hey, and I want to just thanks for some of the comments that were shown during the shout outs. Much appreciated. Thank you, Bill. And also Phil is going to post his schedule. And also, just as a reminder, Ross was on Captain Phil's show, and he actually will be coming back. And I know you did some interviews with the captain, so that'll be kind of cool too. So Phil is going to post the schedule out so we can take a look at that. Also, Matt commented, great job, Christian, just in regards to the being a guest on the show, and I definitely want to add to that. So yeah, your knowledge is incredible, and it definitely helped as Matt said, great show, guys, on a not so easy topic to cover, because the film really is, it's not a typical type of film. So your knowledge was definitely appreciated, and we welcome you. And Phil is also giving you the thumbs up too. So just wanted to put that out there.
So did you think of anything else, Christian, that you needed to get off your chest?
Friday night are always the worst time to have it, because I'm so exhausted, and especially that I almost didn't sleep since yesterday.
Oh my goodness! I hope not because of us.
No. It's no.
You weren't worried about us, I hope.
No. In life, sometimes it's all or nothing. So and everything got at the same time.
Yeah.
So, it's okay. I'm okay now. I had a few hours sleep before the show. That's why I was able to do it. But I was really I was anxious, not to be able to do it. That's what the only thing.
No, well, we're glad you made it, and we're glad you're feeling better. I know waking up in the middle of the night can be really rough, and it makes the days that much longer. I got to sleep at around 9:15 last night myself, and then I woke up at like 1 a.m, and then I was up until about 2:30, and I was messaging Ross.
Yeah, the two insomniacs. I had one night this week where I got like 2 hours sleep. Yeah.
Those long days, working, but and I can't even complain about working long hours. Shari's been working. She's been doing, she's doing the cleaning, because she's got the cleaning business, and then she's also pet sitting, so she's doing double duty. So it's like she gets done with the physical work, and then she's caring for the animals. So, and she's been away. So, but no, we appreciate that, Christian, and it's been good. So
thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. You have a very nice place.
Yeah. Now here's the Godard movie I was talking about. It's actually a series. Do I have it upside down? It's upside down.
That's all right. There you go.
Histoire du cinéma. So I haven't watched it yet because it's 4.5 hours long. So,
it's a documentary or what?
It's a documentary he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks interesting. You can look it up on the internet. Learn more about it. But
do you have his do you know how this film are available on the Criterion collection? I know Alphaville is there, but in Breathless, but is there any more?
That I don't know. I mean, that could very, very easily be found out by, again, Googling. But yeah, I know Alphaville definitely is, and Breathless. But I would imagine some of his other films are on there, especially the early ones.
Yeah, especially the one with Bardot and Content, with Jack Palance, and Fritz Lang.
Right. And there's the one that he did that was that has the dance scene in it that was very
the musical one.
Bande à part.
Okay.
Yeah, Band of Outsiders. That has the dance scene in it. You see that a lot. But anyway,
it's confusing, but sometimes because the English title and the French title are totally
right.
two different things. Like the
so I think it was Bande à part. Bande à part was the name of the
Contempt is le mépris in French. So I don't think there's any connection between the two titles. Anyway, yes.
Guys,
all right.
Live long and prosper. Everybody out there, have a great weekend. Stay safe. And we will see you next week.
Right.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks.